I'd like to first welcome Michael to the Metal Institute of Thrashology. This is Michael from Necronomicon Ex Mortis.
Hello.
So stoked to have you today. I've been listening to the Mother of Death on repeat for like the last 3 or 4 days. Killer EP. Can't get enough of it.
Oh, glad you like it, dude. I mean, I know everyone says this when they've got music coming out, but it is legitimately my favorite thing that we've recorded so far.
My only complaint is you ended it on Salem's Lot, and that
Yes.
song just rips, man. And as soon as it ended, I was like, "What the fuck, man? Where's more? I want so much more." It's so good, man. So good.
I'm glad you like that one, man. I'm really excited for that song to actually fully come out because it's pretty different to a lot of the stuff that we've done so far. And I just I always go back to that one when I put on the EP myself to listen to. That's usually the one that I look forward to hearing the most on repeat. It's just a fun tune.
Yeah, it truly rips, and I think like the softness. I wouldn't want to call it soft, but it's like an eerie brooding with the itchy tasty before it. Like as soon as Salem's Lot kicks in, it's just like a shotgun blast. You're off to the races. Couldn't get enough of it, and the guitar work on it is just throughout the whole album is just great. You're the
Oh, thanks,
guitarist,
dude.
right?
Yeah. So I am the lead guitar player and I write the music too, for the most part. The other guitar player, Manuel, does play some solos. He has one solo on Infestation. He plays the first one, and he has another solo on Itchy Tasty.
Okay.
So those are his two. I do the rest of them. Um, but I also write the majority of the music. Now, I don't mean to say I write all of it. The things I'm really good at, Manuel is not the best at. So things like just heavy, thrashy, old school stuff. But the things he's really good at, I'm not so good at.
Sure.
So when you hear things that are more atmospheric,
Okay.
things that are more subtle, those are usually the things that he's written. So Itchy Tasty, for example, the interlude, that song actually just came from our bass player going, "Hey, can I have a solo in one of these songs?" And I said, "Sure." I wrote the chord progression, and that's basically it. The rest was Manuel in the studio figuring out all these cool tricks to make it so dark and atmospheric. And
Yeah.
I can't even remember all the things he did to that. He added the harmonics that act kind of as the bell tones. There's a few different guitars layered in there. I know there's at least one acoustic track, at least another clean track. I mean, he really spent a couple of hours digging into that and getting his flavor all over it, and it came out great. And that kind of stuff legitimately blows my mind because I'm not a subtle person.
Sure.
And to be able to do that, I think requires uh, a level of mental stability that I might not have. So, I mean, he's such a cool player, and the fact that we're so different as players, I think, makes things really interesting.
And I think it helped round out like the album. Like as soon as Itchy Tasty came on, I was like, "Whoa, what's this?" It's completely different, feel for the other three songs before it. And then as soon as Salem's Lot came in, I think just that little brief. The more I listen to music and the more I start dissecting things, like I'm really liking now as I get older, like a little brief moment of like a contrast where the softness really allows everything else to just seem so much darker, so much heavy, and in Salem's Lot, so much thrashier, if that's even a word. But
Totally.
yeah, and so like I really like how like you have that brief moment to catch your breath, and it allows the contrast to be even more dynamic and allows the album to just have a heavier feel to it.
Oh, totally. I've always thought that songwriting in and of itself is a combination of both fulfillment and subversion of expectation. So you need that give and take. And it doesn't stop at just the songwriting. Once you're picking the songs for an album, you want things to have maybe a central theme or a central idea, but also have enough deviation from that to keep it interesting. So, for example, with The Mother of Death, uh, all five tunes are in five different keys and at five different tempos, right?
Okay.
And maybe the average listener isn't going to pick that up, But I think even if they don't notice it right away, their brain kind of picks up that, oh, there's nothing here that's quite exactly the same. But
Yeah.
stylistically it fits together. So again, it's always about the give and take. Because if it's just kill mode the entire time, it almost stops being heavy after a while.
Yeah, you become so accustomed to just that one tone of heavy. I
Yeah.
yeah. And as somebody who listens to like I just devolve like just tear up old school heavy thrash. And so my favorite band is Exodus, and they don't leave you in too much in the way of deviations. It's just straight full throttle. And at times I could see where songs like Itchy Tasty and like, the five different tempo thing really, like I said, I kept listening to your album, but like you never get tired of it. It always seems fresh because it is so different, I would say.
Awesome, dude. Thank you. I,
Yeah.
I met Gary from Exodus at NAMM one year, and I asked him how he got such a brutal tone on that album Tempo of the Damned. And
Oh,
I assumed he was going to tell me it was some uh Angle amp on top of like a Mesa oversized cab with some crazy guitar. And he goes, "No, man, that was just a modded Marshall in my right hand." And I go, "Oh my God, that's the coolest thing you could
yeah.
have said. That was so awesome." Gary was a phenomenally nice dude.
Yeah.
Really,
And
really cool guy.
he's my like favorite guitar player by far. And I'm just like, he's the one who inspired me to pick up this expensive habit like 2 years ago, which I suck at terribly. And so like it's nice to see something that's as difficult for me when you got like you and Manuel have such trade offs. Like that, like you said, the atmospherics versus the old school thrash. It's really nice to see two highly functioning guitar players contribute two different ways to make such a killer sound throughout because they're both so contrasting, but they kind of like accompany each other in such a strong way.
I hope I'm not giving myself too much of a compliment here, but I always thought of it as like the great guitar duos of the 80s, right? You know, Paul Gilbert, Bruce Bollier, or
Yeah,
Jason Becker and Marty Friedman, uh, Dave and Adrian from Iron Maiden.
yeah,
You know, that twin guitar attack where the two guys have enough overlap to be able to play together, but styles that are different enough to where they each have their own personality. I mean, that was always just the coolest thing in the world to me. And I wish more bands in a modern sense would do that. But yeah, it's that twin guitar attack from the 80s is that's where a lot of the songwriting for me comes from. It's like, hey, we're gonna do this. We might not do it exactly like them because no one's ever gonna be as cool as that again, but we're gonna do our own version of that.
yeah. Well, I tell you what, you guys pulled off a hell of an EP for 5 songs. Like I said, I just was hoping it was 7, maybe 9. Hopefully, a full length is coming soon.
You know, the full length is recorded, believe it or not. We need to finish up the solos and vocals. Our plan, you know, if I put my business hat on for a moment, the plan is basically that we want to try and push the independent thing a little bit further. So that way, uh, when we negotiate a deal with a label, we can hopefully retain a little bit more ownership of the music, or we can get a deal that's a little bit beyond the basic package.
Sure,
So we have a couple smaller releases planned just to push up the social media numbers and some stuff that we can do a little bit of touring on, you know, create some merch around. And then after we've kind of hit that point where we've got a 5-digit following, then we're going to try and go to a label and try and negotiate for something pretty
sure,
cool.
sure. And
And
like,
then the album. I know it seems like forever away, but you know, I shouldn't say too much now, but the release we have after Mother of Death was just delivered to the promoter, so it's coming sooner than you'd think.
sure. Now that's at C squared again.
Yeah, yeah, they've been great. They're
Oh,
wonderfully nice people.
they are, and I just started working with them a couple months ago, and they've introduced me to so much, and you're one of them. They've introduced me to so many great bands that I probably wouldn't have discovered out on my own. Um, just from start, I only started this maybe like 9 months, 10 months ago, maybe 11 months now. But I've learned so much about different bands just from them, and just the support that they provide has been great. And you're another discovery from them, and I'm truly thankful to them and you for great stuff.
Oh, well,
I'm
thank you, dude.
I'm always looking for new killer shit. Who doesn't?
Yeah. Oh, totally. It's man, I'd be lying to you if I told you I was up to date on everything. But for me, I'm such like a despite being born in the mid 90s, I feel like an old school kind of guy. And if I don't have it like the physical thing right in front of me, I sometimes forget it exists. So for me, finding records and stuff like that is usually going to the record shop and seeing a cool album cover and being like, I don't know what this is. Maybe it's cool, maybe it sucks. I don't know. I'm just bringing it home. But thankfully, most of the time it's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah.
I got lucky. Like a couple guys I met in foreign countries, one in Portugal, a couple in Costa Rica. They've just been turning me on to just kill, and some in Germany too. Just killer thrash day in, day out. They're sending me like 5 new albums a day, and all of them are just amazing. So I hope that those guys in Portugal and Germany see this and turn on some. I can never say your damn band. Necronomicon Ex Mortis
There
and
you
check
go.
it out because it's a killer. The Mother of Death EP is killer, and everybody needs to listen to it because it's a nice combination of some thrashiness, but it also have hints of death and doom too. And being like with all the horror themed, Trick or Treat or Salem's Lot from Stephen King or some of the other horror based songs just goes right into my wheelhouse. I feel like I'm kissing your ass, but it's really just a killer album.
Well, I'm glad you like it, dude. Yeah, everything in the band is pretty much centered around horror because, and I always feel like an egomaniac when I say this, but realistically, I just wanted to take my favorite things and put them all in one giant salad bowl. So the '80s shred, the death metal stuff, and the horror worship, specifically the '80s and '90s and the '70s kind of horror. Even the band name is a reference to Evil Dead, which is my favorite movie of all time.
I don't know if I ever saw Evil Dead.
The original was in '81, and that movie is
Is that a George
it.
Romero film?
No, it's Sam Raimi, Sam
Okay.
Raimi and Bruce Campbell.
Okay.
Yeah, and Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn from '87. That's probably the one most people know. And then there's Army of Darkness from the early '90s, which is when they went full Three Stooges.
Okay.
And they've got two movies that came out recently. There was the remake or reimagining in 2013, and then you had Evil Dead Rise from last year. Bruce Campbell's done a couple video games under the Evil Dead name. A Fistful of Boomstick was one, Regeneration was the other, both available on PlayStation 2. They did a TV series called Ash versus the Evil Dead, which was 3 seasons, 10 episodes each, and it was absolutely hilarious. And I've rewatched it twice now, and it's just for an Evil Dead nut like I am, it's just perfect.
Okay. I'll have to look it up.
It's a good time. It's a really good time. It's one of those things where it's just like order a pizza, get a sixer, and just sit there and enjoy an entire season and in
Yeah.
one night kind of a thing.
I was trying to remember the Salem's Lot. I think I read that book by Stephen King, but it's been so long I don't remember. So I'm gonna have to revisit that. I usually like to read the book before the songs come out.
Okay, cool.
Like I did that with Moby Dick. I refused to listen to Leviathan by Mastodon for I don't know. That book took me like 6 months to read.
Yeah,
But
that one's dense. That's
yeah,
very Salem's Lot's fairly dense for Stephen King, but I want to say that's probably my favorite book by him. It's either that or Pet Cemetery, which I know are fairly basic choices from him, but I think they remind me of a time in my life where I was just really getting into horror and Stephen King and Clive Barker, and they're so special to me because of that, that even though they're the more obvious choices from him, I don't care. They remind me of such a good time. And the miniseries directed by Toby Hooper's pretty great too. I haven't seen the one that has oh, what's his name from Wayne's World? Rob Lowe.
yeah,
And the new Salem's Lot is it's okay. It's okay. It's not as good as the original. There were definitely parts of it that I liked and parts of it I really didn't like, but it's worth a watch.
sure. I'll have to look it up. I don't think I ever saw the movie, but I do think I read the book. I don't remember what it's about though.
Vampires.
Is it?
Yeah, vampires.
I don't I don't think that's the one I read then. I'm thinking I know was it one of his earlier works, Stephen King's
I want to say it was his second or third book.
third book?
So
Yeah.
yeah, very early in his career.
Maybe I did read that because I started reading them in order, and then I got to like Pet Cemetery, and I was like, I got kids, and reading takes.
Well, that and Pet Cemetery is real dark if you're a parent.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's that movie's a little awkward, but they did a sequel to that movie, Pet Cemetery 2, I want to say from 91 or 92, and it stars Edward Furlong of all people. And it is so friggin' bonkers. I can't say it's a good movie, but I can say it's an entertaining movie. And Clancy Brown is in it. He was Mr. Krabs on SpongeBob, which is hilarious because he comes back as a zombie and murders a teenager.
that's a dark SpongeBob. That'd be a great SpongeBob episode. But so, if you draw your lyrical content from most of these horror films, what are your biggest influences for your riffs? Like you said, old school '80s and '90s thrash, but
Yeah, it's a lot of the early death metal stuff, and a lot of it tends to be Swedish, I've noticed.
okay,
I'm a huge fan of At the Gates, because they were able to take that slightly punky, slightly thrashy thing and combine it with a lot of melody, which I liked a lot. I like the Black Dahlia Murder as well. I know they're not Swedish, but they were also kind of inspired by that Swedish sound, bands like At the Gates or Soilwork or Early In Flames. So they did their version of it, which I liked a lot. Uh, Arsis is one of my favorite bands because I thought they were really great at combining melody, brutality, great guitar solos. And Ryan Knight, who was in the Black Dahlia Murder now, was also in Arsis. So was Brandon Ellis, who's also in the Black Dahlia Murder right now. Death Clock, huge fan. Brendan Small is a god to me. I absolutely love his playing. Christian Musner is probably my overall favorite guitar player. It's a tie between Christian Musner, who is with Obscura, Necrophagist, Alkaloid, Eternity's End, and Paul Gilbert, who is in Racer X and Mr. Big. And Paul's solo albums are amazing. Christian solos albums are amazing.
except with
Um,
Paul's better at playing his guitar with a drill than I am with a pick, And you're like, come
yes,
on,
the Daddy Brother Lover Little Boy solo where he's got the drill. It's just and if he's such a goofy dude that of course only he thinks of something like that. But yeah, big Paul Gilbert fan. In terms of pure riffs, it's definitely either the Swedish melodic bands, the bands from Gothenburg, or the really heavy bands from New York. Cannibal Corpse, Suffocation, I'm seeing my hat, Incantation.
yeah,
Um, Dying Fetus is one of my favorite bands of all time. John Gallagher is, I think, if you had to pick, and these are always slightly stupid, ridiculous things to say, but if you had to pick, you know, like hand to God, gun to my head kind of a thing, I think John Gallagher is the most underrated player in death metal. I mean, the dude is unreal. To be
yeah,
able to play the technical stuff he does and sing and be the only guitar player in that band, so there's no safety net, is just it's a level of cool and confidence I can only aspire to in my wildest dreams. The dude's nuts.
sure. Did have you listened to? And it was my pick for album of the year last year, and I want to say they're from Chicago. I'm not sure. Majesties had an album last year called Vast Reaches Unclaimed, and it was like a throwback sound to the Gothenburg. It's phenomenal. It came out last year. I think it was a combination of bands. The one band was Obsequy, and I can't remember what the other band's name was. And they came out. It's called. I'll send you the information in your.
Oh, please do. That sounds right up my alley.
Oh man, it was so mind-blowingly good. It took me. I'm a huge Gothenburg listener too. Like I've been arguing internally, what's a better album? Slaughter of the Soul or Heartwork by Carcass,
Ooh.
and it's just like Tuesdays it could be Slaughter of the Soul, Thursdays it could be Heartwork, and it's those are my probably my two except for Tempo of the Damned is a clear-cut winner. But those are my next two favorite albums, and I can't pick one over the other. But Tempo of the Damned is like, because you mentioned it, that is like my kill all, like I will die on that hill gladly, best metal album ever.
That out the production on that album is insanely good. I mean, that Exodus, I think they have some of the best sounding albums in thrash.
Yeah.
And Tempo of the Damned is the guitar tones are ridiculously good. As for Heartwork versus Slaughter of the Soul, I mean, dude, that's I as soon as you said Slaughter of the Soul, I'm like, oh, that's going to be the clear winner, obviously. And then the contenders Heartwork, it's like, oh
Yeah.
no.
And then like I've seen both bands live, so you're like, oh, which band played better? And you're like, neither. They're the same, they're both phenomenal.
I Bill from Carcass is a amazing player, and I think because of that, I might lean towards Carcass slightly more. But as I say that, I'm upset with myself for saying that. So it's like, oh, maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, I got to see Carcass once too on the Decibel Music Tour. It was with Noisem, Gorguts, Black Dahlia Murder, and Carcass at the Paradise Music Hall in Boston.
Oh
Or
man.
no, Paradise Rock Club in Boston. There we go, Paradise Rock Club. And that was an amazing show. And I accidentally walked into Dave Davidson from Revocation. And when I say I accidentally walked into him, I mean I accidentally spilled his beer
Oh yeah.
because I wasn't looking where I was going.
Well, that's a hell of an introduction.
Yeah, I was like, oh, sorry, dude. Wait a second. You're Dave Davidson.
Yeah.
And he was super cool about it. I met him actually at NAMM a couple years later, and I told him that story. He's like, "Dude, I'm gonna be honest, I don't even remember that." And I was like, "Oh, thank God, because that was
Awesome.
very embarrassing."
Yeah. I do want to see the Black Dahlia Murder. I think they're one of my few bucket list bands left. So
Oh, they put on a great show, and now that Ryan is back in the band, I am stoked to see them again. Unfortunately, I'm going to be out of town when they roll through Chicago. I'm seeing Iron Maiden the night before in Newark. Uh, so I mean, it's just if you're gonna miss the Black Dahlia Murder, at least it's for Iron Maiden.
so I got Maiden coming up. I want to say it's next week, maybe the week after. I think it's the 8th I go see them, but I'm seeing them in Pittsburgh.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, it can't
It's
be too far away.
Dude, you're gonna have a great time. The set is awesome. I mean, it's five tunes from Somewhere in Time, which
Okay.
is one of my favorite Maiden records. Um, they're not doing Deja Vu, and I really hoped they would, but I heard a rumor at some point that the band wasn't even a big fan of that song, so that's why they haven't really played it live in a few decades. I don't know how true that is. I think I heard it at one point and accepted it as true, and so now I've just believed it for so long. But I think that's an underrated Maiden track. But they're opening with Caught Somewhere in Time. That is one of the best ones, and they're closing with Wasted Years because, of course, they are. And yeah, I mean, I've seen Maiden 12 times now, and I'm
Gee.
going to see it. 13 is coming up in a week and a half. 14 is next year in Warsaw, Poland. Like I'm going all
Okay.
the way to Europe to see them again. Favorite band of all time.
Yeah, mine too. And it's so sad to see Paul die last week. Was it or maybe the week before? But Derek Riggs was the reason I bought the album. But I think I bought Killers first, and then Power Slave after that, and I was just blown away by Maiden. And I think half my house is decorated in Maiden, and it's just, I think it would be, I think it'd be easier to find a list of people who didn't like Maiden than people who did.
Oddly enough, the vocalist of our band doesn't like Iron Maiden, yeah, right. I just, oh, I make fun of him all the time because he loves new metal.
Oh,
So he's a big fan of Limp Bizkit and Korn, and I make fun of him for that. And he's like, "Yeah, but Mike, you listen to glam." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, fine."
yeah. That's right. I'm not going to say there's not a few new metal songs I don't like. You know what I mean? There's a couple I like. So,
Oh, it can be fun. It can be totally fun. It's not, it's certainly not my style of metal, but I will definitely get down with some Korn. Is fun, and I do enjoy System of a Down. That's kind of where it ends for me, but I still like it. I'm not going to bash it. I'll just playfully bully my singer.
yeah. There was a band, I think, in like Came out right after the LA riots. I think I'm a lot older than you, but I think it was out in like 91 or 92. This band called Downset, and they were like rap, they were like legit rap over like metal before anybody like Korn and Limp Bizkit and all that took off. And I got really into them when I was younger. And then when Korn came out, I was like, oh man, you just can't flow as good as like these guys. So I just never got into it. But
It's
speaking
kind of
of, go ahead.
it's kind of well, like when a band gets popular and they're the first to do something, it's almost like the first few bands to do something are never going to be as popular as the bands that come in the second wave.
Yeah.
It's such a weird phenomenon because you can look at first wave black metal compared to second wave black metal and how much more explosive the second wave stuff was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I black metal for me is one of the subgenres I definitely enjoy, but I don't get super nerdy about like I do with a lot of the death metal stuff. But yeah, I uh I think it was kind of the same with that modern proggy gent thing that was going on because there was a dude or maybe it was a band I don't even remember named Chimp Spanner and he was doing like the 8 string polyrhythm tapping stuff and not a whole lot of people knew about him at first and then after Periphery and Animals as Leaders got big then people went back and we're like, oh, but there was this guy who was first, and he's even cooler or something like that. I don't know. That's more territory for Manuel because he's into all the 8 string modern stuff, and not so much my bag.
You said Chimp Spanner?
I think that's his name. Yeah, Chimp Spanner.
Okay. I'll
Um,
look it
I,
up. I
I
like Gent.
I got a buddy named Sky who plays in a band called Frog over in the New York area, and he's really into that dude's playing. Again, I don't know if it's a dude or if it's just a band, but I definitely remember being in Sky's car listening to it. And it was really good. I remember a whole lot of 8 string and a whole lot of augmented arpeggios,
Okay.
which I mean, if there's anything that sounds modern, it's an 8 string with some augmented arpeggios.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll definitely look them up. So with all this talk about tours and you going to shows, are you guys going to tour in support of this EP or are you going to wait till some more stuff comes out?
So we are looking at putting something together for early next year. Probably regionally, both in the Midwest, kind of around Chicago, and then on the East Coast, because I'm here in Chicago, and our vocalist Craig is also in the Chicagoland area. He's in Plainfield, which is about roughly an hour away,
Okay.
3.5 hours if there's traffic. Uh, Yusuf, our bass player, is up in Toronto, and our drummer just moved back to Boston, which and Boston's my favorite city here in the US, so I am excited to get to go back and see him more often. And the other guitar player, Manuel, is in Princeton, New Jersey, which I think is maybe an hour and a half from Philly, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're kind of all spread out, but regionally around the Chicagoland area would be great. And then over on the East Coast as well would be really great, just because those are the easiest places for us all to get together.
Sure. And hopefully you guys will come somewhere close to Pittsburgh and we'll all come out and support.
Hey, that would be awesome. I was in Pittsburgh when I was a kid. I went to a Pirates game, and
Okay.
it was a hell of a lot of fun. I do not remember who they played.
I
I
see.
just
I was as a kid. I went to Wrigley Field, and I remember watching Doc Gooden and Daryl Strawberry. They
okay,
played the Mets.
cool.
They played the Mets.
Oh, they played the Mets.
Yeah.
I'm not terribly far from Wrigley, actually, where I am. Uh, I'm gonna I'm gonna give myself an ego moment here and say, I live in the city. I'm not in the suburbs. I'm not in Naperville. I'm actually in Chicago. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not far from Wrigley. I was actually in Wrigleyville today, and I got a parking ticket because I was eating at Cane's with my dad.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, right. And that's literally a block from the stadium.
Yeah.
My dad was upset because they're already decorating for Christmas.
Oh man, the city is?
Yeah, I don't understand because I mean the greatest day in the entire year is in 2 days, and we're already thinking about Christmas. Have you people lost your minds?
Right. I was just telling my kids how they need to we need to petition the school district that Halloween is the most important holiday. And if you're getting off all these other holidays like Columbus Day and stuff, then Halloween needs to be like bumped up on the priority list. It's my favorite holiday. Therefore, it should be a national, should be an international holiday.
It's just, it's one of those holidays that is just fun. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? You can dress up, you get to decorate, you get to free candy, spooky movies, popcorn, carving pumpkins. It's just fun. It's
Yeah.
not, you don't have to see all the family, you don't have to buy expensive gifts people don't need. There's not a crazy amount of commercialism is it in it. I mean, there is obviously, but at least it's not to the degree of Christmas or Valentine's Day. So I don't know, man. It's just a good time. And I have such great memories with my dad, looking at Halloween decorations and watching movies. And my mother actively blames him for why I love horror so much because of just all the spooky stuff we did when I was a kid. But I mean, yeah, she's probably got a point. But I look at it now as an adult going, man, I have so many great memories with my dad, just hanging out, looking at Halloween stuff, and I was able to turn that into, I guess you can call music a career.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe in 2024, that's stretching the definition a little thin, but
If you can call politics a career, so you can call music one, you know?
yeah, yeah.
I mean, you get up and just bullshit to the news every day for 4 years. Like that seems like a fake career. So music seems much more, you know.
Oh, I hear you, man. I totally do. But yeah,
Yeah.
Halloween, best day of the year, and I'm really looking forward to it this year because Terrifier 3 came out and it was amazing. And ever since I saw it about, I don't know, a week and a half ago, I've just been so pumped for Halloween.
Yeah. I'm ecstatic too. And I like we have a whole day planned. I have an interview at 3, I think, with another band. And I think I was gonna even do corpse paint just to do something fun, you
Oh,
know?
nice.
It's
Very cool.
Halloween, you know? Why
Yeah,
do
you got to do something.
right. Well, hey, we're running out of time, but I wanted to thank you not only for the killer riffs and the killer EP, but for stopping by today and chatting with me. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule, you know?
Hey, man, I'm happy to do it. This was a lot of fun. And I'm really glad you like the EP. To anyone listening who is a fan of the band, I just want to say thank you so much for listening. There's more coming. We really love everyone who takes the time to check out the music. If I can be sentimental for a moment, I just think that turning all of my nerdy obsessions into songs and then having people listen to them and actually like them is such a surreal feeling that I don't even know how to describe. And Lord knows I'm not the best at receiving compliments in the world, but
Sure.
I can't express my gratitude enough. So seriously, man, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for having me here and talking to me today.
Anytime, you're always welcome back. Thanks again, Mike.
Yeah, dude, take it easy, and I'm sure we'll talk soon.